welcome back to my channel. Today I want to be showing you how I crochet this sweater vest. This is not a tutorial. I'm not teaching you how to crochet. I'm showing you the process of me making this a sweater, the mistakes and the mishaps that I came across and how I overcame them, but the overall process of making this sweater basically. So make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and let's get started. So here I am, I'm about to start my chain, and this sweater is going to be, I'm doing it vertically. Usually when you crochet, you will crochet something horizontally. I'm doing it vertically. So for this chain, I'm chaining from where I want, like the bottom of my armpit, to where I want the sweater to end. So I'm going to show you this clip right here, from the bottom of my armpit to where I want my sweater to end. So you don't have to do it as high as the sweater I'm wearing right now. You could do it a little lower, and that was my intention, but I didn't make the sweater too big because I did not measure myself correctly, and you're going to see that later. So that's why it looks like that. But that's how much you're going to chain, basically, from your armpit to where you want the sweater to end. So I'm doing half double crochet for mostly the whole sweater. That's the stitch I'm doing. So I'm just gonna be doing my half double crochets all the way down this chain. So now that that first row is done, I'm going to start crocheting only in the back loop. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to chain two. You always chain two when you do half double crochet, to my knowledge. And I'm going to only go into the back loop of the stitches. So I'm going to show you a more close-up video of me going through the back loop, but that's basically how I got the ribbing or the pattern of my sweater. So you see here, I'm going into the back. That's the back loop of that stitch. In the V, you see I'm touching the front loop right here. The front of the V is right there. That's the front, and that's the back. So I'm only going to be going in the back loop. So when I put my needle, I'm putting my needle in between the V, and I'm just sliding it through the back loop only, so that I get this ribbing effect. I'm doing this all the way down, and when I get to the top of where my armpit is gonna be, when I get back up to the top, we're going to be increasing. Okay, so we're increasing on the last stitch of that row. We're increasing every other row. So into that last stitch, instead of doing one double crochet into that last stitch, you're going to put two double crochets into that stitch when you're coming back up. And you're going to only do that when you're coming back up, not when you're going down, because you only want to increase on one side of the sweater. So I'm putting two half double crochets into that last stitch, and then I'm just going to chain up two and go back down to the bottom and come back up and do that same thing. Now this is how it's supposed to look. You're just going to keep doing that until you're ready to chain to start going up to your shoulder. So you're going to do that to the little width of where your armpit is, and you're going to start going up to where your shoulder is. So from here, I'm just going to make a chain that's long, that's go from where the armpit area is all the way up to the middle of like where my shoulder is, where it's like the top where it's going to attach to the back one, where that seam would be. So you're going all the way up to your shoulder. Just make sure that you do it to as long as you want the sweater to be, and you're putting it up to your shoulder to make sure that it's going to reach that length. Now I'm going to continue crocheting all the way down. I'm not going to increase or decrease anymore at this point. I'm going to continue going to the back loop and just half double crochet all the way down, back and up from where one shoulder starts across to where the other shoulder starts. So this is the back panel. So we're going from where the third one shoulder all the way across to where you want the other shoulder to stop. I recommend doing it a little shorter than where you want the shoulders to stop if you want to have a lining around where your arm is. If you want to have that ribbing around where your arm is, then you should do it a little bit smaller. So now you can see that I'm done with that across space. I did make this a little too big because you have to stretch your crocheting out when you're measuring it. Don't just put it on top of you and think, okay, this fits. Stretch it out because it's going to stretch. So you're going to be making it way bigger if you're not stretching it out, and that was my mistake. But here you can see I'm ready to decrease again so that my sides will be even. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this in half. I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to make sure that I'm decreasing at the same spot that the other side decreases at also. So I'm just making sure that I'm starting at the same space so it could be symmetrical, and I'm going to show you how I decrease on this side so it can match the other side. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go into that first stitch, go into that second stitch, yarn over, and then pull through all those stitches. That's how it decrease. You should watch other videos on how you really decrease, because people have different methods and people do different things, and how I do it might not be the most correct way of doing it. So the point is that I'm decreasing one every other stitch. I'm decreasing one to match the other side. So however you decrease, that's what you should do. Now that you're done with that back panel, you're going to do the same exact thing for the front. So I'm going to show you right now. This is my back panel. I folded it in half, and I started my front panel the same exact way, and I'm just going to do that same thing until I reach the point in the front where I want to start my neckline, where I want it to start decreasing so it can create that V. That's where I'm going to stop doing it like how I did the back. Okay, so I'm going to line it up so I can see exactly where I want that V to start, and that's how you're going to do it. You could do a round neck if you want, or you could do a V-neck if you want. I just chose to do a V-neck, so I'm about to show y'all how I did that. Sorry for all these clips all over the place, y'all, because I be crocheting at work. I be crocheting everywhere, so I'm in the park right now, but I'm going to start decreasing. So I'm decreasing by 3 now, okay? So I can't really explain what I'm doing because I don't know all the terms, but you could see what I'm doing. I'm decreasing by 3. I'm going through 3 loops. I'm yarning over and pulling through all those loops, okay? And I'm going to decrease on every row. Before we was doing every other row, now we're going to do every single row. So I am decreasing when I'm going down, and I'm also going to decrease when I'm going up. So I'm going to pull through all those loops, and I'm going to continue doing my half double crochet in the back loop of every single stitch after that, just as normal, until I get back up. Now I'm back up, and in that last 3 stitches that I'm going back up on, I'm decreasing. So I'm doing the same thing: yarn over, pull it through the stitch, pull out, yarn over, pull it through the stitch, come out, yarn over, and pull through all those stitches. And that's how I decrease. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing and on the other side. I'm chaining up 1 before I do that, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to decrease the same way on these stitches. 3, decrease by 3. I hope y'all understand what I'm saying and where I'm coming from. But that's what I'm doing. As you can see, I'm decreasing by 3 on every single row until I get to the middle of my top. And then I'm just going to continue on down the rest of the rows as usual. Now, beware if you have a cat. This cat won't let me crochet at all. Every time I'm trying to pull my yarn, she's attacking my project. So beware of crocheting while having a cat. So this is what it looks like after I'm done with half of the top. This is how it's looking, and then on the other half I'm going to do the same exact thing, but I'm going to be increasing by 3 instead. What you can do, you could make a duplicate of that half that I made and stitch it together, but I rather just continue on and do the increases on the opposite side. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I increase. Instead of decreasing by 3, I'm going to increase by 3 on every single row so that it could be symmetrical. So to increase, I'm just going to put a half double crochet in the last stitch of the row. So into the last stitch, I'm going to put 3 half double crochets in there. So this is my last stitch right there. I'm going to put 3 half double crochets. What I did here is that I went into the back loop of this last stitch, which I shouldn't. You should go into the whole entire loop, go into both of the V's, just go to the whole V, because as you can see it's making a hole right there because I'm only going into one string and it's making a hole. I'm like stretching it out and it's not looking as even as the other side is looking. So you should go into the whole V on that last stitch so you don't have those holes on that side. But this is what I'm doing. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to increase by 3 on the other row as well. I'm going to just put 3 half double crochets into that first stitch going back down also. So that means I'm increasing on every single row. So this is how it looked after I was done. Again, I'm not an expert crocheter. I started crocheting when I was like 13 and I just picked it back up recently. So don't judge me on how this sweater is coming out. The front ended up being bigger than the back. I don't know how that managed to happen when I was using the back as a template, but the front ended up being bigger than the back. But either way, I was like, okay, let me just make this work. And I'm just gonna stitch up the sides. So I stitched up where the shoulders are and I stitched up the sides. And how I did that is I just slip stitch. I put the two of them together and I just did a slip stitch along the lines. You could do a single crochet along it to put it together. I did that for one of my projects. You could use a yarn needle and sew it up if you want to. You could do that. Either way, however you want to how to stitch together, just make sure that you stitch it together. You could use any method to do that. I'm just slip stitching the sides together. So I tried this on after I slip stitch and this was huge. So when I turned around to the back, you could see that the back was like coming out because it was just big and I didn't like how it fit. So I knew that I had to like close the sides up or stitch the sides up over, pull out some yarn and do that. So what I did was I undid the stitches and I pulled out the yarn so that the sides could come together. And as you can see, I started doing the ribbing on the side of where my arm is and I didn't like how it looked because I didn't leave enough space to do the ribbing. So when I did the ribbing, it started looking like a sleeve and I didn't like that. So I didn't do any ribbing on the sides anymore. But as you can see where I'm squeezing, I'm basically going to undo all that stitching and just do my slip stitch over. So I'm just going to cut those parts off, undo them, tie it off, and do the slip stitch over so that it could actually fit me. But if you were stretching out your fabric or did proper measurements and you wouldn't have this problem, make sure you stretch out your fabric so you know that it won't turn out as big as it did on mine. So now I'm going to show y'all how I did the ribbing. So I did a single crochet along the edging of where I'm going to do the ribbing. I did a single crochet in the color purple, so just that the bottom could be more even, so that the ribbing would look neater. And here I'm going to attach my yarn. I'm going to chain up 7. I'm going to chain up 7, and we're using single crochet for the ribbon, using single crochet. That's a chain of 7 in that second loop from the chain. I'm going to do single crochet through through that whole chain all the way down to the bottom. I'm doing single crochets. And now at the end, that's my last single crochet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch into that next stitch in the purple. I'm going to slip stitch into that stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch. So 2 slip stitches. Slip stitch in the first stitch and slip stitch into the second stitch. Okay, I'm trying to find the stitch. Okay. I'm struggling a little bit, that's okay. And what I'm going to do, wait, I got to do that over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to flip my work, and I'm going to go ahead and single crochet into the back loop of where that bright green is. Just single crochet all the way down. And that's how I'm going to create my ribbon on the edges. Make sure you're going into the back loop. And after you're single crochet all the way down, you're going to chain 1, and you're going to come back up, and you're going to repeat that process. So you're going to chain 1, and crochet back to where the sweater ends, and you're going to slip stitch twice, and then you're going to chain 1, and you're going to continue, and you're going to do that for the whole entire edging, and you're just going to connect them together, connect the sides together with a slip stitch. You're also going to do that for the neckline. That's what I did. The neckline, I didn't show the neckline because I wasn't sure on how to do it, and I was just like kind of figuring it out as I went, how to do the V in the neckline. So I'm sorry I didn't show that part, but you're gonna have to figure that part on your own. But yes, and my intention was to do the size 2 when I first started the sweater, but as y'all saw, I made it too big, so I didn't have that space to do that ribbing on the sides of the sweater. But what I did is I single crocheted along the side of the sweater, just 1 single crochet around, just to get that pop of color. So right here I'm showing y'all again what I did. I'm slip stitching into two of those loops, right, 1 into, and then I'm chaining 1, and I'm going back to the end, and that's how I'm going to get my pretty ribbon on the sides, y'all. And then boom, bam, bam, done. I like how this turned out. Everybody's telling me I look like Scooby-Doo, look like Velma, or whatever character wears these colors. It reminds of Scooby-Doo. That's what it reminded me of too, but I just like these colors together. And I like how this sweater turned out. Even though it didn't turn out perfectly and I had some mishaps, I really enjoyed like making this, and I'm thinking about making another one. If y'all have any suggestions on what I should make next, leave it in the description box. But thank you for watching this video. Like and subscribe to my channel, and adios for now.